No sports topic is out of bounds. You found the MN Sports Blitz. Along with former Minnesota Vikings linebacker Chad Greenway, here's Joel Niemeyer.
And good day. Welcome back to the MN Scorefeed Blitz. I'm Joel. That is Chad. Good afternoon to you, or good day to you, Chad.
Yeah, good day. Hope things are going well over there.
Things going very well, and boy, I'm just kind of glad. We're past Groundhog Day. Playoff time for high school is coming. We can see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel for winter, and it can be a fun time here. This kind of playoff season in Minnesota.
Yeah, I hope the groundhog meant we were going to see less winter, but I don't think that's the case, unfortunately. Yeah, we were just talking off air. I mean, it's an amazing time of year. I think it's, if you're going to look at the high school schedule and the kind of the confluence of all these different sports kind of getting to their playoff times at the same time, pretty unique time of year and pretty fun. I know for my daughter, there's 5 regular season games left and kind of charging towards sections. I know hockey starting up next week, and yeah, pretty amazing.
And I would guess for you guys there at MN Scorefeed, I mean, you're gearing up too. I mean, it's you guys. I would guess, and you correct me if I'm wrong. We'll have most of the coverage for the hockey and the basketball playoffs that are starting here in the next few weeks.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to be an amazing time, honestly, for MN Scorefeed. I mean, the biggest thing is we looking at the South Dakota numbers in our previous year out there was this time of year as people are checking and rechecking scores and data and looking where the rankings are. And of course, when you get the final section, rankings, getting those uploaded in there and kind of seeing those brackets play out, it's going to be pretty fun. And the volume is just going to go through the roof. So the more folks we have on the app, obviously go download it. It's a Minnesota Scorefeed app on your App Store. It's free, easy to use, easy to sign up, and then you can become an official scorer of your hometown team. Look it up by sport, find the school, make sure you have the right gender, and away you go. And yeah, it's pretty amazing what we've done this year in our first year in Minnesota. The fall sports were tremendous. The winter sports have been, the volume of winter sports is just incredible with the amount of games every night of the week. And as folks have gotten on the app, we've made a lot of people's lives easier, but also when people jump on and live score games, man, does that make the app even better. So please, yeah, I encourage you guys, jump on, create a hometown team for yourself, and away you go.
Well, and as high schools start their playoff season, football is ending their playoff season, and maybe it's just me, or maybe it's the fact that the Vikings have been involved in a lot of news the last few weeks. I haven't heard much hype about the Super Bowl, not about the teams, about the players, about the advertisements. It's like, oh yeah, there's a game on Sunday, kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's a little weird. And I think, obviously there's the massive audience out in LA, is going to be one thing, but, we don't hear a lot of West Coast news. And of course, Cincinnati, Midwest team, is not necessarily a sexy pick for the Super Bowl, although they're kind of a Cinderella story, obviously, this year. So it is interesting, and I'd have to agree with you that it's not as much hype and conversation as I would expect, which is kind of unique. So I do think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see it.
I think there's a lot of storylines. I mean, we've talked about the Rams. We've talked about both teams actually, because both teams played the Vikings this year. The Rams will give you some opportunities, and Cincinnati just seems to be in everything. So I expect, like you, I expect a pretty good game here.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, I think I'm leaning Bengals. I really do. I mean, the way they went into Kansas City, you think about how hard that is to go into Kansas City, and to think that that you're going to go in there and get down big early, and you're going to say, nope, we're going to come back on this thing and go get this dub. I mean, are you kidding me? Like that, people don't realize how hard that is, what they've just accomplished. And you got to, I don't know, now you're going to go into LA, and you're going to go win a game out there. Can you win it with the team on their home field in front of their home crowd? Just an unbelievable run. If I'm a betting man, I'm putting my money all over them.
Well, and for the Bengals, I mean, yeah, their offense is good, but it's kind of been their defense. I think that has looked the best here this postseason. The Rams might have the best defensive player on the field, but the Bengals might have the best defensive team on the field.
Oh, I think so too. And I think what you look at that coaching staff is you look at a staff that made some really impossible adjustments in that Chiefs game, and the adjustments were right on cue, right on time, and the right moves. I just think it's going to come down to when you have a one-game environment, is like what coach can identify right that spot or that adjustment or that tweak that's going to make the difference. The worrisome part for me, if my money's sliding to the Bengals, is can they protect Burrow? You saw what they did, get up to 9 sacks a couple weeks ago, and they still found a way to win. But you got to keep him upright. We saw what happened last year to Mahomes when you can't keep a guy upright when Tampa Bay was getting after him. So I do think that is going to be the story. Can they block the front four of the Rams? You look at that front four. I mean, how do you block that front four? I mean, the names are incredible. The ability is incredible. So that would be the storyline to me, because you caused some problems there and you rushed some throws, and Burrow stayed away from some of that garbage this offseason, but we'll see if he can do it again.
Does the experience factor come into play here? Or maybe it's a wash because neither team has, there's maybe been a couple players that have been in Super Bowls on other teams, but you don't have that Tom Brady or Rob Gronkowski or guys that have been in 5-6 Super Bowls. It's a lot of inexperienced players out there.
Yeah, there is, and I think everybody's going to have to make some adjustments, right, to see what how they're going to handle it. The long delays in pregame, the long halftime. These are things that happen every year in Super Bowls, and what team can adjust the best and the easiest to that change in schedule and that change in format. It is a challenge, but I think there's going to be they have a plan. They're going to talk through their plan. The players will be ready. They will be surprised by what's going on, and they'll react to it accordingly.
Now, part of me wants to cheer for the Rams and our soon-to-be new head coach as we shift topics a little bit. Vikings seem to have their guy. No official announcement yet because he's still coaching on Sunday. Kevin O'Connell, offensive coordinator for the Rams. What are your thoughts on that potential hire if it does come down?
Yeah, I thinking through it, I wasn't, when this was going down, everybody was kind of, the Harbaugh thing was going on, and it looked like a little bit of a ploy to me in some ways. I really didn't want Harbaugh. It just didn't feel like the right move to me. It didn't feel like it. I don't know. It just felt icky. And I thought going with O'Connell, if that was their guy, was a better feel for progress, a better move in the right direction. Now, again, he's unproven in literally every way, from play calling to other stuff. But the reality is these guys all got their start. These guys, McVays and the Shanahans, and these guys that are coaching Taylor right now in with the Bengals. They all got their start kind of from the same coaching tree. So, these guys are smart guys. They have enough experience. And, do you need a guy who's been around for 100 years to get to be the guy to be the head coach? I don't think you do. I think you can win with guys who have maybe a little bit less experience, but also more permeable with how they coach and a little bit be a little more bendy. So I like the hire. I'm excited for it.
A lot of times in years past, NFL teams haven't been willing to wait for those coaches in Super Bowls. They just they take the almost coaches, the coaches that lost in the championship game, or the coaches that lost earlier in the playoffs. What makes this one different that the Vikings are willing to wait for this guy and willing to let him finish out his Super Bowl?
Yeah, I just think it's the right fit. Obviously, they feel comfortable with it, and they think that he is the right guy for the job, and I think you're willing to wait for it. And I think it comes down to probably Kwesi. You're kind of seeing Kwesi's impact on this organization right away on what he wants to do with this team and how he's going to handle it. And, I think it's a good decision. I like the move.
Do you expect? Because he still has to put a coaching staff together and all that. Do you expect to see some of the Rams system playing for the Vikings? So some of that coaching style, those plays, those formations for the Vikings.
I do. Yeah, I do. I think you're going to start to see a lot of what the Rams have done in their plan and their strategies, and then you're going to see a lot. I think that coaching staff is probably being built. Has been being built these last few weeks when he got word that he's going to get the job. It's going to become just it'll become official, and then these hirings, I think, will move really quickly. So yeah, it's going to be. I think we're going to look a lot like that. I also think that when you get a younger, more progressive guy who's not locked into a 30-year scheme, you get a guy who's going to build the scheme around what his guys do well and what's on the roster right now, and how do we win next year with who we have and who's going to be here, and how are we going to build this team. There's so many questions to answer. You got to start somewhere, though, right? It's going to be the obvious decision is going to come down to quarterback. Do we have the right guy? Are we going to keep him long term? And if so, then we build an offense around him. What kind of stuff can he do that he did with Stafford out in L.A.? Those are the first questions that'll be answered and asked.
And it brings up an interesting point. If you were the GM, what would, because there's two ways to go about this. You could go the full rebuild mode, get rid of veterans, get rid of high price, this, that, throw everything out and go into full rebuild mode, or there's the retool mode. Which are you a fan of to try for the Vikings next year? Yeah,
well, retool mode. I'm never a fan of a massive overhaul. I think you look at what the Bengals have done, right? You get a quarterback back from an injury. A team that was really struggling, you could make the Super Bowl the next year because you retool your team with defensive players, with some offensive playmakers, and we have a number of those things already in place. So I think a retooling is in effect here.
As we're recording this program, I know the report out this morning is that the Lions defensive back coach Aubrey Pleasant might be the new defensive coordinator. Do we know anything about him? What do you like about him and what he'll bring to the Vikings?
I don't. I've seen that name get thrown around, but I don't have anything on him, which is kind of shocking.
What would you being a defensive player? How would you like to see? Maybe I'll word it this way: how would you like to see the Vikings play defense? What changes would you like to see them do?
Well, I think it comes from the leadership. Obviously, you want to have a guy who's going to be in front of that team that the head coach can trust. With O'Connell being a offensive-minded guy or kind of an offensive-angled guy, is you need to have a coordinator who can handle his own, right, who's been there, done that. And I don't know that Pleasant has that experience, but maybe he's got that leadership quality to be able to handle that. And obviously, they like what they're seeing. I think what Detroit is building is interesting. And obviously, he's coming from a place where him and O'Connell work together. So I think there's obviously a background there. There's a knowledge there. And you got to believe when these guys are getting into coaching at the same time or similar time, they're having conversation to say, hey, if I get the job, I want to bring you along, right? Let's do this together. And that seems to be the case here.
One other topic before we have to wrap things up here. Next week was supposed to be pitchers and catchers reporting for the Minnesota Twins. They're in a lockout here, and I don't know if you've ever, when you were still a player, if you were ever involved in lockouts or strikes or this or that. But what kinds of things are these players going through right now when you're supposed to be reporting, but you're not?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, especially guys that are going into contract years or young guys who are looking for that big payday and just want to go out there and prove themselves. I mean, they just want to get to work. They this stuff is all sort of hogwash. They want to go to work and they want to make sure they get their job and their paycheck. And there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be struggling. They're going to be looking for that paycheck that isn't going to be there right away. And I think that's something to think about long term, right? With Major League Baseball is what are you doing to your own game? I mean, the game has struggled to keep people in the seats, struggled to keep interest. And now you're going to go ahead and do this, and I just don't like the look for Major League Baseball at all.
Do you see baseball compromising more, or the players compromising more, or are we in for a long lockout? Are we going to not get spring training this year?
I would think it's going to be long. I think the players have to come to grips with the fact that the ownership has a little bit more control. But at the same time, who's going to bend first? The players that need a paycheck or the owners that need people in seats? It'll all come. The rubber will meet the road here, but I bet we get to the point where we don't have a training camp or a spring training, or at least not a whole one.
Sounds good. Hey, we'll chat again next week, and hey, maybe we'll have baseball. If not, we'll talk some Wild and Wolves and recap a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that sounds great. A lot going on, especially with the Wolves and the Wild playing so good as well. So, yeah, it'll be fun. Looking forward to it.
Sounds good. That's Chad Greenway. I'm Joel Niemeyer, and this is the MN Scorefeed Blitz.
The MN Sports Blitz has been produced by KDUZ, KARP, KGLB, and the Ingstad, Minnesota Radio Network. Complete episodes are available on our website and on YouTube.